Barney Harwood, what a privilege. It's good to see. I'd like to say that we don't look any different from when we worked together 15 years ago, whatever it was.
Mate, I am now 44, and when we first met, I was 26. So that's 18 years ago, and I look very different. I've seen the pictures, and so do you, actually. But you're aging gracefully, though. You're like a cheddar. I've always thought you were a bit of a cheddar.
Cheddar, doesn't that go mouldy in the fridge when unloved?
When you hit about 50, yeah.
Um,
How are you, buddy?
Very good and great. I know you're just about to fly off to Portugal, aren't you? So thank you for taking the time out from one of your, I'm sure, your many hotel visits on this trip. I've got to start, mate, with the question of what was it like having the most important job in the UK, and of course not that Prime Minister stuff, but fronting Blue Peter. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, what a show. What a legacy as well. You know, if you think about a show that started in the late 50s and it's still going, it's quite a thing to be a part of. And when you first join the team, or certainly when I joined the team, they sit you around in a circle with these, solicitors and media people and the editor and the producers, and they basically tell you that you are about to take on something that you've never done before. You know, this is going to change the way you perceive the job that you do. And it totally did, because on a Tuesday, you get a phone call to say, have you ever bungee jumped before? And I go, no. And they go, well, you are tomorrow. And it's like, it was just phone calls and situations like that you didn't ever experience before, and certainly didn't think you would experience in your career. But yeah, what a show to present. It was. I think it changed the way I presented as well, because up until that point, the stuff that we'd worked on was kind of entertainment and comedy vibes, and Blue Peter's more of a magazine show. And I don't know whether you know this or whether your audience know this, but not many people know why it's called Blue Peter or what the Blue Peter actually is. So Biddy Baxter, who was the original editor of the series, legend and still a lovely person, she wanted to take kids on a journey. And her father was in the sort of the nautical area of things, and they have a flag on a ship when it sails for the first time called the Blue Peter, and they only put this flag on a ship when it sails for the first time on its maiden voyage. And so effectively Blue Peter is about taking kids on this journey and showing them what's happening along the way. And so the whole ethos of the show, the whole premise of the show, is just something that I really loved the idea of. And yeah, I was there 7 years, mate. Couldn't leave.
I know certainly when we were doing Prank Patrol, and I think to people who may obviously recognise it, that's the guy from Blue Peter. But oh my gosh, you have had one heck of a run, haven't you? I know we talk about Blue Peter being the start of a journey, but that was just one of many, many things that you were working on and throughout your career, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I actually worked out. I did 18 shows over 18 years. Not all over 18 years, as like it wasn't a show a year, but when I was doing Prank Patrol, I was doing 6 shows as well. So I would drive from Cardiff to do Totally Doctor Who, to do Prank Patrol on a Tuesday, maybe a Wednesday if we did a prank day. Then I would go and do Bear Behaving Badly on a Thursday and a Friday. Then I would do Swap Shop on the Saturday, Smile on the Sunday, and then it would just it would loop. So it was a bit of a blur for me, if I'm being honest. In fact, I think that's the reason why my life is the way it is now, because it was such an intense period of time and condensed into this sort of experience that it's so difficult to try and explain what it was like to be that guy that was just drinking energy drinks and drinking coffee and getting in the car and driving and doing a thing and then finishing, changing clothes, doing the next thing. It was a monster of a time, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I had the best times. I did some incredible stuff, but yeah, I did a lot, as in like too much, really. But then again, you don't know until if you haven't got any context for anything, if you haven't done something that you've got to a point where you've gone, maybe I should try it differently, because I had kidney failure when I was 27. My kidneys were completely shot, and not many people know the backstory of what happened, but I was drinking easily 12, 13 cups of cappuccino a day, easily 4 energy drinks. In fact, I had a nickname. Can we mention brand names on this podcast? Will that get us in trouble? Are we okay?
Go for it.
So I was called Red Bull Barney. Reggie Yates and Fern Cotton on Smile used to call me Red Bull Barney. Before I started, bearing in mind we've been up since 4:30 to do our rehearsals, by 6:30 I'd had 4 Red Bulls just to get me through that Sunday. It was nuts. And my kidneys eventually just went, we're out, we're done, we can't take any more. So when things like that happen to you, you realize that maybe you're doing a little bit too much. And yeah, again, I wouldn't change it for the world. It was such a brilliant time. But to answer your question, Roberto, yes, I did a lot of stuff.
What pushed you on though, Barney, to keep saying yeah, we'll do this. Yes, we'll do this. And obviously, you must have been performing brilliantly because otherwise, execs and things would say, "Oh, he's not right. He's clearly, but exhausted or burnt out, whatever." You were clearly still delivering the goods. But at what point did that sort of inner voice say to you, or or what happened that made you think, I don't think this is right. I don't think this is sustainable. As wonderful as the journey sounds, on the outset, it also sounds like it was pretty hellish, for want of a better word.
I was always the kid that was never going anywhere. Every
Right.
school report was waste of time, waste of space, doesn't pay attention, won't listen, doesn't care, doesn't want to be here. And they were absolutely right. I didn't. School wasn't for me. I was always looking out the window to see what else was going on. I never got that thing of being in the same clothes as everybody else and learning the same stuff and everybody facing the same way. It was a bit like the demon headmaster for me. I never really got what we were doing in this room of obedience. And not to say that I was naughty, that I stepped out of line. I mean, I definitely did, but school was never for me, and I was always told that I would never amount to much, and it always stuck with me. And I suppose when I started becoming what I guess what you would call from the outside successful, as in doing lots of shows, and and the BAFTAs and all those things that came with it, you become part of this bubble where you're achieving, you're
Yeah.
achieving something, and I'm permanently achieving, and I'm doing it, one after the other. Bear behaving badly, prank patrol. I think it was also Swap Shop at the time. Were like the top three kids shows in broadcast,
Massive,
and that was
massive.
they were the things. That's what I was doing, so I was a success. So all these things that I've been told since I was a kid, I'm worthless and I'm not going to become anything. When I eventually did, I kind of just sort of went, I'm going to show them. And I didn't realize that until later. I didn't think that at the time. I wasn't doing it to get back at my teachers. But as I got older and sort of looked back over it, I kind of worked out that must have been what I was doing because I was trying to prove that I was worth something. I think, and on a very basic level. And I overindulged. Like if someone says that you can't have chocolate cake for 4 years and then you get a big cake on year five, you tend to cram the whole thing in and make yourself feel sick. And I think that's what I did. I think I was like, I wanted to prove to people that I was good at something. And yeah, I think that's what it was.
Yeah, and if you may have done this, but if you could, I don't mean the time travel. I know you're involved with Doctor Who, but if you could talk to those teachers now, or even if you could go back, in a way, do you thank them for saying that, or do you
Yeah.
think life might have been a little bit more ordinary if they'd have said, "You just do what you want to do, and everything, and that's fine. It's fine being you."
So I actually sent, so there's a particular teacher involved. See, I'm from the north, and people that I speak to from the north
You're
who
Blackpool,
went to
aren't you?
school are similar. I'm from, well, I was, yeah, I've sold my house, but with more on that in a bit.
Yeah.
So Northwest, yeah. But if you went to school in the 80s, teachers were very different in the 80s. They have peer massage now. We didn't have that. We had peer punching. It was very strict and very harsh environment, and every teacher told you that you were worthless. It just seemed to be the Victorian style they adopted. But there was one teacher in particular who gave me a hell of a time, and it was actually quite an emotional reunion because my nephews went to the same school that I went to, and I went to a school
Right.
concert to support them, and he was there. And at this point, I'd got the BAFTA, and in fact, three BAFTAs. Awards were coming in from
Just the
Sony, and I
three.
had this show on this thing and this show on this thing. And when I got the BAFTA, the first one, I actually sent a letter to him with a picture of me holding it, and I just put, "Dear sir, thank you for telling me that I would never make it in life. If you hadn't have done, you'd probably have been right." And it was a double-edged
Wow.
sword of me going up yours, effectively, but also genuinely thanks because I think you really gave me the drive. So, and we actually got really emotional. We cried when we met because he came over to me and he said, "Now, I don't know what your intention was with that card that you sent me, but I knew you were worth so much more. It makes me feel really sad now that you think I was just doing it to be mean, which is the vibe that I
Yeah.
got from the card. I was doing it because I saw your potential. And you were annoying me that you weren't doing anything that you had a talent for. And I could play piano, I could play guitar, I did all these things at school that were outside hobbies. And all I was really focusing on as a petulant child was how mean I felt the teachers were. I didn't have any context, which was he was just trying to help me and give me a little shove, but I didn't see it that way. So it was a nice little resolve, and I don't have any animosity towards the guy. I'm so glad that he did what he did, and it's a hell of a life lesson to learn when you realize that drive and that ambition that you had, and it's almost borderline anger that somebody might say something to you. You will never do it. Oh yeah, watch me. That kind of thing was actually unnecessary. And it's
Yeah.
very hard to undo 22 years of a career when you realize that maybe you weren't, the person you could have been because you were a little bit driven by something that was quite negative. And I think that's a huge life lesson. My life changed pretty much from that point on, and I started looking in a
Yeah.
different direction and feeling differently for sure. But yeah, I thought that was a huge lesson for me because the guy was just trying to help me, and he did.
Yeah. And now life has taken a very different turn, but absolutely on your terms.
Mm,
How sort of, I mean, look, I've dabbled in telly over the years. I certainly haven't got any BAFTAs. Prank Patrol was one of the happiest times of my life. I miss
so
it.
good.
I love it. I know it's gone. I know it won't come back. I found it really hard to accept for a while. And this is just one little insert in a show. And you had all this, and you've kind of turned you back on it with positivity and going in another direction. Has that been a shock to the system, or is it just you've got a bit older now and you know that this is now the thing to do?
I think because it was so intense for so long. I mean, if I woke up on any given day, I would have about, I don't know why 36 is the number, but I would have about 36 emails in my inbox. And they would be saying, you need to be here for this time. We've got a costume fitting here. You need to be here for a photo shoot. You need to be here for your whatever. And they were all orders. They were all things telling me to do something, to be somewhere, or information about schedules or call sheets or where I need to be. And when you leave that industry, it's so sudden. It's like hitting a wall. Like it's like I
Yeah,
don't know if you've ever been in a crash. God forbid, I don't, but I've been in a crash, and the violence at which that happens, that impact moment, is so traumatic and such a shock because it's something you don't experience that often that it can only affect change. And when I left the BBC deliberately, because I was just at a point where I was like, I have to go and do something else here. Um, I woke up the following morning. I woke up the following morning and there were no emails in my inbox. The only one that came in was from Halfords offering me money off a bike. There were
it's a
no other
win-win.
emails. It just stopped. So I then went, oh, what have I done? Because this is the
Yeah,
life that I've known for so long. I had an agent, I had a PA, I had people that would do things for me. If I needed to book a train, Rob, I didn't book my own trains. I would get a phone call to say your train's booked, be here at 9, because that's just the way the business was. So I
yeah,
started doing things that simple, basic things like booking myself a train or booking myself a hotel room, and it just felt alien. And I really struggled. I think I'm sure most people can relate to life changes and how you feel in between because your self-worth certainly for me just plummets because I've now put myself in a position where the one thing that I've kind of showcased or proved that I can do for a career as a living, which is live presenting and a bit of comedy entertainment, I've now I've now put myself in an arena where I don't get to do that anymore.
yeah,
And I'm now convincing myself that I'm not qualified to do jack. What else am I going to do? I can play piano. What do you do? Where's that? I'm not going to get a single out in the charts. I can play guitar. Fine. What's that going to do for me? What have I learned? What skill set do I have? And I found myself in a real crisis. Like I felt I'd been this guy that would walk into a room and everyone knew who you were. And it was nice to feel like you were part of that team to this guy that's been completely forgotten by everybody he's ever known. And I'm now a scared 8-year-old boy who feels exactly the same way he did when he was at school, who was looking out going, I don't know what I want to be. And so it took a good couple of years of real sit down chats. And I genuinely had some sit down chats. I had to go and speak to other people. And I met
yeah,
this guy who I could go and soundboard against, and he was phenomenal because he had a great, really sick, dirty sense of humor, which appeals to me. I like toilet humor and that kind of stuff. And we just connected on a very basic pub level, as we called it. But it was a chance for me to go and offload to somebody who was impartial, and there was no bias there. There was no judging, and I had to have someone to talk to, and it had to be someone that didn't know me. Because it was very hard to find someone like that who wasn't advising me to get back into telly. Everyone that I
yeah,
knew, my family were like, "You're an idiot. You're crazy. You're stupid. Why would you want to leave the job that you've got and think about the money?" But nobody, even my family, nobody was getting that it was making me ill. It was making me
yeah.
sad and ill. So when I left, I had a big job to do. What do I do next? So I got a diploma at the British Photography Institute because I thought I should probably know what I'm talking about if I want to take photographs. I bought a fancy camera. I bought a drone. I got my qualifications. I got my GVC,
You were
and
always in. Sorry, but you were always into photography, weren't you? I always remember being introduced to very geeky but prime lenses by your good self on one of the prank patrol shoots with these amazing stills
yeah,
you were doing of our gurning faces.
I remember it well. Yeah, you've still got a bit of a gurn going on. But that was just to um, have a qualification in something, so that I wasn't turning up like most people do now because you can buy a fancy camera. Or I'm a photographer. It's like, no, no, I actually am. I've studied and here's the paper. I don't know why that made me feel like I was worth more, but I wanted to do that thing so that I could say I'm qualified in these areas. And then that became something completely different that I wasn't expecting. I'm also a fan of martial arts, in particular Tai Chi Chuan, which is a traditional West martial art that's been westernized. But the guy that I knew who was training is the only seventh Dan in the UK. He's 91 years old. And I said to him, I said, I need to make a documentary about you. You're just an absolutely beautiful human being. And what you're doing is, and we had that conversation. I made the documentary about him. And it's the most fun I've had creatively telling a story in my career, like ever. Because the majority of the time, you're working with a director that you don't quite agree with, or you're working with a producer who's telling you to say certain things that you wouldn't say. And it was a complete, it was a brand new start. But for the first time, even though the environment itself was familiar,
Yeah.
I'm now behind the camera telling the story, and I don't have to bounce anything off anybody else. I can do exactly, well, I can do what I want to do. I can say what I want to say, and I can do it. And this thing started to happen. It was a really organic process that just felt right and felt good, and I was happy and I was smiling and I was giddy, and I'm in the edit putting it together, and I'm now sort of a one-stop shop for everything that I've learned. And I realized then that's what I was doing in such a serendipitous moment. Again, that moment of things coming together. I'd been spending the past 22 years learning. I've watched thousands of camera guys film. I've watched thousands of edits. I've been in thousands of meetings with execs. I've been in thousands of boards. I've been in thousands of rooms where we've been having creative discussions. And what I'd been doing without realizing it until this moment was absorbing it and going,
Okay.
oh
Well, of
my, I do know what I'm doing. I do know what I can, I do know how to film. I can
course.
fly a drone. I can tell a story. And so I then became a documentary filmmaker, apparently. Um, and from that point, which is about 5 years ago now, I've made lots of different little mini films that I've just been cutting my teeth, really, trying to get myself to a point where I've found a style, because it takes a while. I wouldn't release
Yeah.
anything yet because it's not quite there. But this year, however, I've been approached by an advertising company because there's been a bit of a resurgence on social media. There's apparently people are searching for what happened. Oh, I'm wobbling the table, sorry. What happened to Barney Harwood? What happened to Barney and Nev? Does Barney still do prank patrol? And they got in touch with me after doing some market research and said, you do realize there's like 30,000 kids a day searching for you at the moment? I was like, what? No, I think you've got that wrong. I said, I haven't been on telly for 7 years. And they were like, no, 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 it's coming back because they're playing old clips of Prank Patrol in the swap shop. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
cool. And I didn't have TikTok or any of that. I don't have social media. I think it's poisonous. But I downloaded TikTok to have a look. And it was like 20 years ago, but now, but with
Yeah. Yeah.
more kind of oomph behind it. And all the people that were 8 and 9 years old are now in their mid 20s, but they're all searching for their childhood nostalgia. And so they basically said, look, if you do a video channel, if you do like YouTube or something, you'll probably get quite a few hits and you might do okay. And I was like, I'm kind of done. I don't want it to be a job anymore. I want it to just be something that I get the chance to do and hopefully it works. And then I had a chat with my dad who was like, well, hang on a minute, haven't you been telling me for years you just want to get a camper van and go traveling and make videos? I mean, isn't this your opportunity to do it and also maybe make some money out of it? And I was like, okay, well, let's give it a go. So I start my first film is next week when I'm back from Portugal on Tuesday. I pick my motorhome up on Tuesday next week. I've sold my
Lovely.
house, I sold my car, I sold everything that I've owned. I have nothing left. I got rid of all of it, and I'm 44. So episode one is going to be called "I'm Scared," I think, because I'm back to that place again where things have come full circle, and I'm starting again. But I'm not starting the way I started last time, where I had nothing, and I mean, I was really scared because I didn't know what I was going to do. I now feel
Yeah.
like I'm starting again with the right amount of tools to do what I need to do, and I don't really know what it's going to be, which I also enjoy about what I do. I don't like turning up with all the words written, and I like getting people together that are talented and good at what they do. That's what you
Yeah.
brought to Prank Patrol when you came in. They'd give you a script and say, Rob, we need you to do something like this, and you would just take it. You would bring that off the page and make it what you would do, which is why you were invited back so many times to play all those different characters. Because when you get somebody in a room who's proficient at what they do, and you know you can work with them, it's that process of just bringing great people together. So I played classical music when I was a kid, and it used to bore the life out of me because we're all playing the same piece of music in the same way, with the same sheets, with the same people, with the same clothes. It was just all a bit too stunted and just kind of boring and bland and beige. If you get
Yeah.
some jazz musicians together who are influenced by Jimi Hendrix, or they've got this sort of fusion
Sounds
thing. Like one
wild.
of my favorite guitarists. Like Yngwie Malmsteen is classical. He's got this anger and this aggression, but he's also rock classical as well. Perfect. I find that more exciting, is what I'm trying to say. So what I'm doing now, what I'm about to do, is get into a position where I can invite people. So there is going to be an episode of Prank Patrol. I just haven't told you about it yet, but that's coming down the line because nostalgia's huge. There is going to be a Bear Behaving Badly reunion, which I've already organised. But again, no one knows about this yet because these are all ideas that I've got. But I'm now in a place where I can celebrate what I did
Yeah.
and not be in it, be outside of it, looking back, going, God, I had a really good life, and I now get the chance to show people from this place of love and really genuinely, I'm so grateful for the opportunities that I had and what I did, and I wasn't when I was there because I was too tired. But now looking
Yeah.
back, it's a nice place to be because I can now call these people that I genuinely love and have a lot of time for and say, we had an amazing time. We had such an amazing time together, and it doesn't have to be over. That's the bit that
Yeah.
I'd always
There's
thought
more
was
to come. We're just getting started.
yeah, let's get
Yeah.
back
Yeah. Yeah.
together and do some more stuff. Why not? It's like Blues Brothers. We're getting the band back together, man. I'm doing it. We're on a mission from God, apparently. Cut to a shot of me and you dressed like nuns in an old police car. Anyway,
Out there, I'd be
yeah.
all over it. Just to say, just if that would be, because I've got you to thank for my Blue Peter badge that I bore people with, that I was on it, and that's absolutely thanks to you. So, what I love is that you seem very excited as well. I know it's daunting, but I can't really, honestly, thank you for. Gosh, what a story that is, and I'm excited about the next time we do one of these to hear how you've gone on. I've got one last question for you, Barney, unless you've got aboard the plane. The elevator pitch, or you get in a lift, and you must get this all the time. Oh wow, you're the guy off Blue Peter, or you're the guy from Bear Behaving Badly, or you're that amazing drone pilot or musician or BAFTA award winning. You can give them just one bit of advice, and this may be, a young person, it may be a business owner, it might be someone who's in their 50s who's thinking, where's my career going? What would be that nugget that you would say to them to be the oil on their gears of the next phase of life?
From my experience, the moment that you're in, regardless of what that moment is, whether it's a terrible moment, things are going really wrong, or whether it's the best moment of your life, it'll be over soon. It will be over. It will finish. And I think when you have perspective on how you feel about where you are and where you need to be, it changes everything because you then get a balance between realizing that, yes, things are awful right now, but don't worry, it'll change. It won't always be awful. And things are amazing right now, yeah, but it won't be for long. It will start to find its way back down to that side of the scale. So that you're always trying to either appreciate what you have and really hold on to that moment, or don't worry so much that things aren't going the way they are because you will get back to that stage. But you have to understand and realize that that middle line, that balance, is what you're looking to achieve for peace. That's where your peace is. That's where you feel content. That's where you can sit down at night and do whatever you do, whether it's a hobby or watch TV or whatever, and feel content, can feel happy. If you're always fighting on those two sides, you'll never find the middle, is what I would say.
Right. Amazing. Barney, thanks again, and I hope you enjoy finding the middle in your camper van on your travels. Drive safe.
Mate, I'm so excited. I am so excited. I haven't because I pick it up on Tuesday, so from Wednesday onwards we start filming, and yeah, and I'll be in touch soon. And hopefully you can show your viewers what you're going to be up to because we're going to do a few little cameos and things that I've been thinking about for a while. So mate,
Amazing.
I'm buzzing.
Thank you. Once a legend, always a legend. Thank you so much, mate. You take care, and safe flight wherever you're going from here. Portugal, isn't it? Enjoy it.
Will do. Thanks, buddy. Always a pleasure.